Your Honor, we are quickly perusing some video to skip some time. 3 minutes, 5 minutes.
Okay,
And we were just gonna step out and talk to our complainants. They just flew in from Florida, so we were gonna
Okay.
bring them in here.
all righty. Court is calling 2021 CR 7016, State of Texas versus Jose Lozano. Could I have parties announced for the record for the state?
Hank Wilkins and Daniel Escobar for the state, Your Honor.
Defense?
Raymond Martinez and Victoria Cruz for Mr. Lozano.
And are you, hi. And are you Mr. Lozano?
Yes.
All right, so the court has received the motion in limine. There's an amended motion in limine. And then there's a motion for discovery of exculpatory and mitigating evidence. All right, with regards to the motion for exculpatory and mitigating evidence, state you have to turn that over. So is there an issue with that, counsel?
Well, they gave it to me, Judge, but remember, they gave it to me like the day before yesterday.
All right,
And so it kind of goes hand in hand with the limiting issue on what I'm trying to limit out is the complainant's testimony about.
oh, and please remain seated. It makes it easier for the court reporter to hear.
I'm trying to limit out is any testimony from the complainant about the value. And as you can see from the indictment, the state has the burden to prove a certain amount. So it's a critical issue in the case, obviously. So
Well, isn't the complainant allowed to say what they paid for an item? Is that what
Well-
you're trying to limit out?
what I'm trying to limit out is the fact that I didn't get discovery on that issue, which I've been asking for a long, long time. I finally got frustrated because I wasn't getting anywhere with it. And I filed a Brady motion, but I had been having that conversation with the state since I've been on the case. And this is the question. He made an insurance claim. Obviously, he's gonna state what the values are to the insurance company. The insurance company and him are gonna negotiate. Potentially, he's gonna settle that claim and agree to a value by accepting a payment from the insurance company and signing a release. So all of that was relevant to the issue, one of the core issues of the case, which is, what is the value of this item?
Just 1 second. Excuse me, who is this in the,
I'm waiting for ANTR and Deb doesn't want to see her first.
okay, all right, thank you. Just have a seat. All right, you may continue.
So in order to prepare and properly defend my client, I need to know that information. So finally, day before jury selection, I get the printout that is before the court from USAA, which exactly addresses what I've been asking for more than a year. And as you can see from the dates on that document, they settled this case with the complainant, some of it 2 years ago, 2021 and 2022. So they've had that information. Well, the complainants had all that information all this time. So. and as
Right,
you-
because you're not saying that the state had this information in their possession and did not turn it over to you, correct?
Not necessarily, I don't know I don't know when or if, I'm sure they can tell you when they got it. I don't know.
Okay.
And I'm not attributing any ill motives to them. This is how things work out sometimes. Bottom line is, it's affected my ability to prepare because they gave me a listing from the complainant. These are all the items and these are the values that I'm putting on them, right? But if he says that and testifies to that, when he goes and settles with the insurance company, he accepted their values, which are different.
Mhm.
Maybe, there's no way to know because as you see from the document, it just gives you a summary, personal items, $15,000. Well, what does that mean? Which item was valued at which amount? How can we ever know that? How can the jury ever know how to come to those numbers when I haven't been given those breakdowns to properly cross-examine them? I fully expect that there's items that he put values on that the insurance company paid him less for, that he accepted and signed a release for. But I have none of that information.
All right. State,
Yes, Your Honor. So for purposes of the record, I received these two documents on Monday at 5:25, and I'm not sure exactly what time I emailed the defense, but it was shortly thereafter. I just dragged these PDFs that I received over and sent them over. So as soon as they were in my possession, I did turn them over to the defense. The limiting I believe defense is trying to limit out that he doesn't want the complaining witness, the victim in this case, to testify to the value of his property that was stolen. And I don't think that's supported by case law. The case that the CCA has decided this in 1986 in Sullivan v. State, which is 701 Southwest 2nd 905. And the relevant quote from that is, the owner of stolen property may testify as to his or her opinion or estimate of value of such property in general and commonly understood terms without making specific statements as to market value or replacement value. So Judge, I don't see, we have this information from USA, but I think if anyone's ever dealt with an insurance company before, you know that sometimes you might settle with an insurance company for an amount that is not equal to what your items were worth, right? That's how insurance companies make money, is they insure something for $100 and they might settle with you for 50. So I don't think it would be an appropriate remedy to exclude the victim in this case from being able to testify about the value of his items that were taken. And that's not just my opinion, that's what the CCA says, Judge.
All right, so here's my question. Attached to the defense's motion for discovery of exculpatory mitigating evidence is a claim details report from USAA. And if you'll see the November 22nd, 2021 date, it has the payee's name, it has an amount, says status complete, and then it says view details. Where is, or is that the detail?
This is what I received from the complaining witness, Judge. I'm not sure what happens if you click on view details. What I received is a PDF.
Okay. Well, what I can tell you is this. Number one, if the defense wants the USAA payments issued excluded, the court is going to exclude that. And for these reasons. The date that's listed in the payment details are from 2021. Here it is, 2024. They should have received that from the insurance company. So I see a date also from 2020. So defense, if you're asking that the USAA documentation be excluded, the court will grant that.
Well, Judge, I mean, that kind of is
Well-
right around what I'm asking for. but the
No, no, no.
problem is-
This is what we're dealing with.
Yeah.
What we're dealing with is this. A complainant can come in and testify and say, for example, I bought this computer. I gave them $500 for this computer. They're allowed to testify to that. Now, if people want to cross-examine that person and say, well, when did you buy that computer? You're more than welcome to do that. But the complainant is going to be allowed to testify to, if they know, what they paid for an item. Not what USA gave them, but what they actually paid for an item. And then you all can handle it in cross or however you all want to handle it. If you want to use the USAA payout, you can use that. But I will not allow the state to use the USAA documentation to prove up a value amount in this. Because the defense has just received it yesterday.
Your Honor, Daniel S. Clark from the state of Texas. There was documentation that was handed over to the defense prior. It was the USAA documentation payout regarding the vehicle that was uploaded pretty soon after, and I can look it up on Veripic.
What I'm talking about is what the court has in its possession, which it states claim details, property burglary, theft, December 4th, 2020. And then it says payment issued, payment details, November 22nd, 2021, $101,850. May 7th, 2021, $78,022.29. December 16th, 2020, $15,000. And then it says personal property, stolen firearms, $927.55. Personal property, stolen silverware, goldware, platinumware, and pewterware, $43.79. Personal property stolen, jewelry, watches, and furs, $9,992.92. Personal property money, $200. That's what I'm speaking of, that. Oh, and then the following page, they have amounts of $65,358.03. The USAA report that was just turned over to defense yesterday, that report is going to be excluded if the defense wants it to be excluded. If something that was turned over to the defense before that with the original discovery, then of course the defense has access to it and they've had access to it. But this will be excluded. The complainant is allowed to testify to what they paid for a specific item.
Judge, I don't have a problem with him doing that.
Mhm.
I also had the converse, which is what he agreed with the insurance company was worth at the time they settled his claim.
Mhm.
Because the value of his property at the time it's stolen is the value that we're working with in terms of what the state has to prove. Now, and if he bought something years ago, he settled with the insurance company for a certain amount, and that list, I could match it up to the items, as you see in the indictment,
Mhm.
specifically lays out what the items are.
Is this the most detailed list that USA gave you?
This is what the complainant gave us.
All right. So has anybody called USAA
No,
to
ma'am.
ask them for a detailed list?
No, ma'am.
Does anybody want to call USAA and ask them for a detailed list?
They wouldn't give it to me if
Because-
I asked them, Judge. Obviously, it's gotta be the complainant or the state. So they're not gonna.
And it would more than likely have to be the complainant because we would have to subpoena it and they're not
Yes.
gonna give it immediately.
All right, so here's the thing. The complainant is allowed to testify to what they paid for the item. State, you all need to call USAA or either somebody have the complainant bring records with them showing what USAA paid them for those amounts. Now, whether someone is allowed to cross-examine them about that, people can make their objections, whatever they may be, if they have any. But the defense, I would see why they would want that for cross-examination purposes.
Judge, it may be easier than all that, because if you notice, they categorize the different items on that list. If the category that says personal items is encompassed with all the items on the indictment, and that's $15,000, I can live with that, if they want to tell me that. Right, because if you notice in the indictment, there's no guns, there's no, some of those other items you talked about. The pewterware and that other, whatever that other word was.
All right, so this is what I know. State, I know that you received the the PDF. But this, where it says view details, whoever received this email from USAA, I imagine that if they clicked on view details, it's going to have a list, I'm assuming, I'm making assumptions, of all the items that's covered under that $101,000. So does anybody want to, and I'm sure the complainant received it by email. Does anybody want to ask the complainant?
Yes, ma'am, we can have a moment.
All right, if you all will do that. But the ruling of the court is the complainant is allowed to testify how much they paid for an item. And of course, I'll hear whatever objections y'all may have, whether it's hearsay or whatever objection you want to raise to that. But if you'll see if the complainant has that.
Yes,
Okay, yes,
Judge.
ma'am.
Here, we'll walk over.
All right, so we'll go on a short recess. Any objections to me speaking to the jurors to let them know that we're going to start a little bit late today?
No, Judge, but there are some other items in the limiting, so I don't know if you want to just stop here or. finish all
Yes,
of it.
let's have them get that because that may solve other things.
Okay.
What, the original list?
The one that just-
Oh, the big one.
Items.
All right, so were you all able to get the printouts?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, and did you turn it over to defense?
We are just blacking out the address of the complainants. I'm just trying to double check and make sure.
This is second degree. Under 300 over. Where'd they have it?
Let me see the file on that. All right, are you all ready?
Yes, ma'am.
The jury's been
Ready to proceed
waiting.
on the motion, Judge, yes. Ready to proceed on the motion.
I'm sorry?
Ready to proceed. In continue the
All
motion,
right, so
yes.
which motion you want to proceed on?
Well, Judge, I just wanted the court to be aware, the listing has. This is why I was asking for this for so long. 306 items.
Mhm.
I'm hoping I'm not gonna have to cross-examine him this afternoon without having a chance to review.
All right, so this is what we're gonna do.
306 items.
This is what we're gonna do. Who's your first witness?
It's an officer, Judge. Our first three witnesses are officers.
All right, so do the officers have anything to do with the cost of these items?
Oh, ma'am.
No.
Defense?
Not that I'm aware of, Judge.
All right, so we're gonna proceed with the officers. You can call your complainant tomorrow.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, anything else?
The other items on the limine, yes.
All right, the motion in limine. Well, as far as the motion in limine, it's the complainant. He's gonna be allowed to testify about what an item cost and what he paid for it, if that's what.
You've addressed that, Judge. I have a limiting issue on the search warrant as well. Before the state is allowed to introduce anything that was obtained pursuant to a search warrant, we ask the court to conduct a hearing on the validity of that search warrant.
All right, so here's my question. Did anybody ask to have a hearing on a search warrant prior? Are these officers having to do with the search warrant?
The first initial officers, I don't believe, are dealing with the search warrant.
All right, then. Approach no. Approach when you have somebody who's dealing with a search warrant.
And just to give the court a heads up, Judge, the question is the sufficiency of the affidavit, which is a legal question that the court can certainly take up by perusing it themselves, and I have brief argument on that. That's the issue.
All right.
on search.
Well, someone give me a copy of the search warrant, but the jury has been waiting here for over an hour. So we're gonna line the jury up and we're gonna bring the jury in. Is there anything else?
Yes. As you can see in the indictment, there's a whole listing of various categories of items. And Judge, can we conduct our hearings outside the presence of witnesses?
All right, complainant, if you'll step outside and any witnesses outside.
So real briefly, Judge, the allegation in this case is that the complainant's truck and trailer, trailer the kind that carries stored items, an enclosed trailer. I don't know the verbiage for trailers, that they were stolen with the contents. As you can see from the indictment, the contents is basically what my client's been charged with. He hasn't been charged with stealing the truck or the trailer. Neither one of those items are included in the indictment. So I'm asking the court to rule on whether or not the state's gonna be putting on evidence suggesting something that they have not charged him with. Because they've been very specific in delineating the items that they think that he stole, they should be bound by that indictment and not bring in really big value items and suggest that he had something to do with that when it's not part of the indictment. In other words, prosecuting for something that they have not indicted him.
Well, if the question is whether or not the witness can testify that these items were taken from a trailer, if they were in fact taken from a trailer, then that's coming in.
Right, but I'm talking about the trailer itself and the truck itself, two very
You
large
mean
value items.
that he's alleged to have stolen the trailer in the truck?
Correct.
State?
The truck was recovered, I'm sorry, the trailer was recovered abandoned, Your Honor. But I guess the tough part for us would be, how do we say that the entire contents of this trailer was not stolen? Because our theory of the case is that the defendant took the trailer with all the contents, emptied the trailer, and then abandoned the trailer.
All right.
So I mean, I don't know how we could say like, well, these items were stolen. Like it would have to be him, like, I guess, going and filling up a different vehicle and then, does that,
I think what the defense does not want stated before this jury is the fact that the trailer or truck, whatever it is, was stolen by his client.
and in the indictment, Judge, it does say motor vehicle parts, which I think would encompass, what they're talking about with the vehicles.
I don't think motor vehicle parts mean the vehicle. Am I wrong?
Well, especially Judge, because on the listing, there's motor vehicle parts on their list of personal property. So it doesn't, I agree with the court, that does not mean the truck or the trailer.
So that's what he's asking for. He's asking that you not present evidence that you believe or the witness has tied him to the actual theft of a vehicle. What is your response to that? And that is the alleged theft, I'm assuming again, of the truck and of the tractor trailer.
Yes, ma'am. So as part of the items that were taken, the defendant, or, it's alleged defendant right now, he took the truck and the trailer and the items are inside the trailer. So I mean, that's kind of part of these folks wake up, they notice the truck and the trailer are gone.
All right, I understand what your argument is. All right. The motion in limine with that will be denied if your allegation is that he actually took the truck and the trailer and your witness testifies to that. Your witness can testify to that. My understanding is that the state, you are not attempting to say, this is how much the trailer costs, this is how much the truck costs, and that's included in the $300,000.
That's exactly what I think they're doing, Judge. That's my concern.
Well, time out, one at a time. They're going to answer the question.
I can just consult my notes briefly here.
Sure.
Yeah.
Are you all right? We might need medical attention, Jim.
All right, you can line the jurors up.
We don't need to allege the vehicle, Judge.
Okay. So you are going, my assumption, and I'm assuming, and if I'm incorrect, let me know. The state is allowed to say, if your witness testifies that he took the trailer and the tractor, but you are not using the truck or the tractor as value for your $300,000. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
All right.
Well, Judge, are we gonna make it clear to the jury that he's not being charged with stealing those items in
Well,
the indictment?
that's what you all need to do on cross-examination. That's the court's ruling.
So-
You're allowed to say the $300,000. No one is to mention how much the tractor costs, how much the trailer costs, because that's not a part of the indictment.
Well, but you are allowing them to prosecute him for stealing something that's not included in the indictment.
Okay, I've made my ruling.
I'm just trying to make sure the record's clear, Judge, because
The
obviously.
record, this is the record. The record is if their witness is saying that he took a tractor and he took a trailer and there were items in that tractor and that trailer, you can make your objections. When you make your objections, I will rule over that, but I'm not doing a motion in limine as it relates to that. My understanding from what the state is telling the court is that the tractor, the trailer is not a part of the $300,000. And they're not including that as a part of meeting their burden of a theft, $300,000 or more.
So then they're saying that he didn't steal those. They're conceding that point.
I don't know how clearly I can make it, counsel. You can cross the way you can cross. I'm denying your motion in limine with regards to the trailer and the tractor. We're ready.
All right, for the jury.
All right, oh, please be seated. We stand for you all. All right, everyone, please be seated. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to have you raise your hand. I know you were given an oath downstairs, but this is an oath that's related for this specific case. So if you could raise your right hand for me, please. Do you and each of you solemnly swear or affirm in the case of the state of Texas versus Jose Lozano, you will a true verdict render according to the law and the evidence, so help you God?
Yeah, I do.
All right, you may lower your hand. All right, state.
Judge, we'd like to invoke the rule, Judge.
All right, the rule has been invoked. Do you have any witnesses in the courtroom?
Your Honor, just the complainant.
All right, the rule is invoked. To the complainant, if you'll come forward, please. All right, sir, the rule has been invoked. What that means is that you're not allowed to review any testimony or talk about your testimony with anyone else. The only persons you're allowed to speak to are attorneys for the state or the defense. Do you understand? All right, thank you. So I'm going to have you excused. All right, state.
True bill of indictment. In the name and by authority of the state of Texas, the grand jury of Bexar County, state of Texas, duly organized, impaneled and sworn as such at the July term AD 2021 of the 187th Judicial District Court of said county, in said court at said term, do present in and to said court that in the county and state aforesaid and anterior to the presentment of this indictment, on or about the 4th day of December 2020, Jose Lozano, hereinafter referred to as defendant, with intent to deprive the owner, Terry Kirkbride, of property, namely clothing, electronic items, household items, tools, toys, sporting goods, weapons, fashion accessories, jewelry, magazines, books, paintings, artwork, collectibles, vintage movie items, antiques, motor vehicle parts, military collectibles, United States currency, and food items. Did then and there unlawfully, without the effective consent of the owner, appropriate said property by acquiring and otherwise exercising control over said property. Said property being other than real property, which had a value of $300,000 or more, against the peace and dignity of the state.
How do you plead to that? All right, state, do you have any opening statements?
Yes, John.
All right, you may proceed.
So just like we talked about yesterday, this is a theft case. So in December of 2020, Terry Kirkbride and his wife were moving from California to Florida. And they stopped for the night in San Antonio. And they were staying at a hotel at 410 and 281. And they had almost all of their worldly possessions in a trailer, the type of trailer that you tow behind a truck. When they woke up in the morning, they noticed that the truck and the trailer and all the contents of the trailer were gone. So they did, I think what anybody would do in that situation, they called the police and they reported, hey, all of our stuff is gone. And so the evidence is going to show that The police came out to the scene. They tried to search around the area, see if they could find the trailer. They were unsuccessful in that effort. Later on that day, the next day, different officer found the abandoned trailer. It was mostly empty. And you're gonna see that there were some items in there, but it was mostly empty. It had been full before, and there's just a few items in there. And it was abandoned like that, mostly empty on the south side of San Antonio. As part of processing that scene, the police searched it for fingerprints on the outside. And they found fingerprints on the outside of that trailer. Police matched those fingerprints to the defendant, Jose Lozano. They did some research, figured out where the defendant lived. They went out to his house. They had a warrant for his house. And they found the contents of that stolen trailer in the backyard of that house, as well as inside the house. So over the next couple of days, you're going to hear from the victim. You're going to hear from police witnesses, and you're also going to hear from the mother of the defendant's children who lived with the defendant at the time where they found all his property. And by the end of what we're going to present to you, we're confident you'll have enough evidence to find the defendant guilty of theft. Thank you.
Defense.
Briefly, Your Honor. Good afternoon, everyone. So in opening statements, the lawyers give you a preface of what they believe the evidence is going to show. This is not evidence or testimony. It's just a summary, a preview, a trailer, if you will. And I'm not going to go through the whole case as counsel did. I will just wanted to make clear to you that what you're going to hear from the witnesses is that there's no suggestion or no allegation against them that they actually stole the truck or the trailer, but that he was in possession of the contents. And so the question becomes whether or not that in fact is a theft, and whether or not they can bring evidence to suggest that he was aware that those items were stolen at the time he came into possession. Thank you.
All right, state, call your first witness, please.
State calls Officer Alan Contreras.
All right, could you raise your right hand for me, please? Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you give will be the truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
All right, if you'll lower your hand, make sure you keep your voice up so that members of the jury can hear and the court reporter can hear. If you'll state your name for the record.
Alan Contreras,
State.
Officer Contreras, who do you currently work for?
San Antonio Police Department,
How long have you worked for the San Antonio Police Department?
a little over 6 years.
And are you a certified peace officer?
Yes, sir.
What type of training did you have to go through to become a certified peace officer?
You do a 8-month training at the training academy, and then you have to complete a 1-year probationary period, and that would be with a field training officer and under the supervision, obviously, of your supervisors.
And what type of things did you learn at the academy?
Obviously the penal code, CCP, general manual, and just, fundamental training as far as driving, shooting, tactics, all that would help us out on patrol.
And so I'm going to take you back to December of 2020. What were your duties with SAPD?
December 2020,
Yes, sir.
I was a patrol officer, and I was a patrol officer on North Dog Watch.
Okay, so what area were you assigned to patrol?
The northeast side of San Antonio.
And you mentioned dog watch. What's that?
It's like the graveyard shift. It's from 10:30 p.m. to 6:30 a.m.
And do you still work at that location or in that area?
No, I recently moved to the downtown bike patrol unit.
So I want to take you back again to December of 2020. Were you working on December 4th of 2020?
Yes,
Were you wearing a uniform?
yes, sir.
Is it similar to the one that you're wearing now?
Yes, sir.
And were you driving around a marked squad car?
Yes,
Now, do you remember being called out for a theft of a vehicle report?
yes, sir.
And where were you called out to?
Was it the Homewood Suites? It was a hotel, right there on the corner of, I believe it's, Jones Maltzberger and 410.
And and again, would looking at your report refresh your memory?
Yes, please.
Your Honor, approach.
Yes.
So, Officer Contreras, if you can do me a favor, please don't read directly from the report. Just whenever, if you need your memory refresh, just take a moment, read your report, and then answer.
Okay.
So where did you respond out to?
Yes, the Homes 2 Suites by Hilton.
And what is that by? Do you remember?
It's near North Star Mall.
So it's in Bexar County, Texas.
Correct.
And do you remember what time were you called out there?
Around 5:30-ish.
And when you were called out there, did you speak to anyone?
Yes, spoke to the victims.
I'm gonna approach with what I'm marking as State's Exhibit 1. Do you recognize this?
Yes, sir.
What is it?
It's a copy of my body cam footage.
And aside from any audio redactions, has it been altered and amended in any way?
No,
And you were able, back on that night, you were able to operate the body worn camera
yes,
and it recorded what happened?
yes.
Your Honor, state what Auburn State's Exhibit number 1.
Judge, with the qualification that I think it's been muted. I'm not sure. If it's been muted, we're okay.
Yes, Your Honor, it has been.
All right, then, State's Exhibit number 1 is admitted as muted.
And
Granted.
So I'm skipping ahead to 54129. What are you doing here, sir?
Putting the vehicle in park. I've arrived at the location.
And did you immediately start speaking to the people who called you out?
Correct.
And did you take their information down?
Yes, sir.
And do you recall what were their names?
It'd be Rachel Grant and her husband, I believe, is Terry Kirkbride.
And what were they showing you?
They were showing me where they parked their vehicle and trailer.
Okay, and did you see anything when you were looking on the ground?
I saw shattered glass.
And on what side, we're looking at a Penske truck, it's 54214, we're looking at a Penske truck. What side of the truck was that on?
It would be on the right side of the truck if we're looking down.
And so did they give you a general understanding of what had happened?
Yes,
Okay, and were they able to give you information on did they describe what was taken?
yes.
What was taken?
So it was their belongings. From my understanding, they were moving from California to Florida. So they had a pickup truck, a large box trailer, and all of their belongings from their home in that box trailer.
Now, were they able to give you any information regarding license plate or VIN number for the truck?
When I first got there, they gave me a description on the vehicles. And then later on, they were able to give me the VIN on the pickup truck.
And when you were talking with them, how were they? How would you describe their emotional state?
I mean, they were very upset, emotional.
And was that causing difficulty in them getting any of the information?
Somewhat, yes.
And were they able to give you any information in regards to the trailer?
They gave me a VIN number for the trailer. But on my end, I wasn't able to verify if it was accurate, but they were able to give me the VIN number on the pickup truck.
So once you get this information, what did you do?
Around this time, I believe my partner shows up, so I start relaying that information to him and let him know, hey, start searching the area. And then I go back to my computer and I start verifying all the information, make sure it's accurate to the description they're providing. So when he mentions a Ford pickup, I'll run the VIN number to make sure that it does come back to a Ford pickup.
And what do you put this information in any system?
Yes, I end up putting it in the NIC system, the stolen vehicle system. I'll have the dispatcher enter the vehicle as stolen.
And what's the purpose of doing that?
So that anytime, let's say a patrol officer is running license plates and he comes across that vehicle, it'll notify him that that vehicle is in fact stolen.
And you said they weren't able to give you all the information on the trailer. Is that true?
They attempted to give me a VIN number, but on my end, I couldn't verify it. It could be possible that when I wrote it down, maybe I entered incorrectly. It's a 17-digit number, but initially I wasn't able to get the VIN number on the trailer.
Well, what did you direct them to do?
I went ahead and gave them the information for our it was either our auto theft unit or our property crimes unit. Let them know, hey, as soon as you get that VIN number, call them so that they can enter that trailer as stolen as well.
Now, did you ever enter the actual hotel they were staying in?
Yes, I did.
And did you attempt to talk to people who worked at the hotel?
Yes.
Were you able to do that?
Yes, I did.
But did you ever see any type of surveillance video?
No, I didn't. They advised me that it's possible there was footage, but she didn't have access to the surveillance system itself.
So once you finished putting in all this information, did you ever give the Kirkbrides any further information to follow up on?
I gave them the follow-up unit information and I gave them the case number so that they could follow up in regards to this incident.
And did you ever attempt to drive around in the area to locate their vehicle or the trailer?
So my partner drove around, searched the area, and then as I left the scene, after I got all the information, I gave him the case number. I also patrolled the surrounding areas.
Pass the witness, Judge.
All right.
So Officer Contreras, you did not locate any potential eyewitnesses to the theft, is that right?
I remember speaking to the lady at the front desk, and she says to me that she might have seen the vehicle.
All right. Just make sure you listen to the question that's asked and then just only answer what's asked of you.
So at this point, before you get into what she says, Officer, my own question is, were there any potential eyewitnesses?
Yes.
And how would you gather the information from that potential eyewitness?
I got her, I got her name. I've been at that location numerous times, so I kind of already knew who she was.
Okay. And so what is the process for taking a statement from somebody?
How do you mean exactly?
Well, I mean, in the old days, when I first started, witnesses would give written statements, right?
Correct.
Either write them out themselves, or they'd sit down with an officer and they type in the computer and they print the statement, right?
Correct.
We still do that?
No.
How do
So
we do that?
just based on her verbal statement.
But it has to be recorded somehow, so you record it on your body cam?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So whatever she tells you in her statement is recorded on your.
Yes, sir.
But you didn't get any leads from her that would allow you to broadcast over the radio, for example, like a suspicious vehicle identification, a license plate, things like that.
Correct.
Is it fair to say the general information she gave you didn't attach to any particular person?
Correct.
Okay. Now, in terms of the surveillance system, whose job would it be to follow up with the hotel management to see if they could recover the potential video footage?
It would be the detective assigned to the case.
Is there, would you know who that is?
It would be, at the time, I would imagine the auto theft unit.
Okay. So once you take your initial report and broadcast the information and forward your reports, that's the end of your involvement.
Correct.
So other than the lady that we see in the picture who's at the front desk, did you speak to anybody else who had knowledge, any relevant knowledge of this incident?
No,
Was there any canvassing, or were there any other buildings or businesses around there that might have video that could have been checked on?
that I'm not aware of.
Would that also be the property crimes follow-up unit's job?
I would imagine so, yes.
I'll pass it, Mr. Judge.
State.
Nothing from the state.
All right, is this witness excused or subject for recall?
Excuse, Judge.
Excuse you.
All right, the rule has been invoked. What that means is you can't discuss your testimony with anyone. The only persons you're allowed to speak to are attorneys for the state or the defense. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, you may step down.
Thank you.
State, call your next witness.
The state calls Officer Moya.
I'm sorry.
Officer Moya.
If you'll take a seat here. All right, if you can raise your right hand for me. Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you give will be the truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God? All right, you can lower your hand. Make sure you keep your voice up so members of the jury and the court reporter can hear. If you'll state your name for the record, please.
My name's Alexander Moya.
State.
Officer Moya, who do you currently work for?
San Antonio Police Department,
And how long have you worked for the San Antonio Police Department?
10 years.
And what unit, I want to take you back to December of 2020. What unit were you assigned to back then?
At that time, I was on light duty and I was working the front desk at vehicle crimes.
And so what did you have to do as a part of working the front desk of vehicle crimes?
Mostly took telephone calls from officers in the field or from service agents or anyone who had questions regarding vehicle crimes.
Did you ever have to reach out to anyone to gather information?
Yes, sir.
And when would that happen?
I'm sorry.
When would that happen?
If they had a question or if something was missing in the report or we needed more clarification on certain items or certain things, we would reach out.
Now, I want to take you to December 4th of 2020. Were you working on that day?
Yes, sir.
And what do you remember? What shift were you working back then?
I'm not too sure what shift I was on at the time. It's been a couple of years, but I was on patrol at the time, but I was on light duty at vehicle crimes at that time.
Okay. So back on December 4th of 2020, were you ever asked to reach out to anyone?
Yes, sir.
Do you recall who were you asked to reach out to?
It was the victim of the crime that the officer was saying before me. He took a report, and I guess the North Service agent at the time reached out to vehicle crimes and needed some extra information.
And would looking at your report, would that help refresh your recollection?
Yes, sir.
One more. Well, it's 2 pages, but. Officer Moya, I'm showing you your police report. Now, I'm gonna ask that you don't read directly from it, but use it to refresh your recollection. So you don't remember something, take a moment, read, and then you can answer the question. So do you remember who did you end up speaking with on that day?
Mr. Cookbride.
Okay. And what were you trying to speak to him about?
I was getting his VIN information for his vehicle.
And what specifically on the vehicle were you getting, or what, I guess, part of the vehicle were you trying to get information on?
The VIN number.
And was he able to provide you the VIN number?
Yes, sir.
And did you ever talk about the trailer that was involved in this case? And again, sir, if you need a refresher of recollection.
Reading my report, it appears that I did speak to him about the trailer and getting his VIN for it.
And were you able to put that into the NCIC system?
Yes, sir. Well, we don't put it in, but we contacted the service agent and they put it in for us, sir.
And what's the purpose of putting information into the NCIC system?
So we put the VIN in to make sure it comes back to the vehicle and we can report it stolen.
And as far as you were aware, you were able to then report it as stolen.
Yes, sir.
Pass the witness.
Defense.
So Officer Moya, you said you're on light duty, just so the jury understands, what does that mean?
So light duty basically means I was injured and I wasn't able to work full duty on patrol. So when you're on light duty, they put you behind a desk to still be able to work and help out in some capability.
Okay, and how long have you been with the police department?
10 years, sir.
And I see that you have 3 stripes. What does that indicate?
I'm a sergeant now, sir.
And explain for those of lay people, what is a sergeant? How's that different from your average patrol officer?
So a sergeant basically is going to supervise the patrol officers and it's going to help guide officers if they have any questions out in the field and make sure rules and regulations and everything's being followed.
Are you required to have additional training other than a basic patrolman to become a sergeant?
I know we go to a supervisor school and et cetera like that, sir.
So how do you become a sergeant? Is it passing an exam?
As far as the department works, sir, yes, it's we've taken an exam.
Does it require a certain number of years of experience?
So before you get to sergeant, you hit detective and you have to have 5 years on the department. And then as a detective, you have to have 2 years as a detective. And then you're able to take the test. Yes, sir.
Okay, so you've been on the police force for 5 years, you become a detective for 2 years, and then you're eligible to become a sergeant.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so as part of your duties as a police officer, are you required to study the penal code and understand what the different laws are in the state of Texas?
Yes, sir.
Have you worked with thefts before?
Yes, sir.
So in a scenario like this, where someone's vehicle is stolen, or a vehicle in a trailer is stolen that has items in it, do you necessarily arrest every person that might come into contact with those vehicles, that vehicle's items somewhere down the line?
Your Honor, I'm going to object to calls for a legal conclusion.
All right, that'll be sustained.
Well, let me ask you a different way. In your experience as an officer, have you recovered stolen property before?
Yes, sir.
Can you give us an examples of different scenarios in which stolen property can be recovered?
I guess I'm not understanding the question.
Have you ever recovered stolen property from a pawn shop?
No, sir. Never a pawn shop.
Have you ever recovered stolen property from a flea market?
I can't say I have, sir. That doesn't happen too often for us.
Have you ever had people call in saying that they saw their stolen property somewhere and they wanted you to intervene and get it back for them?
Yes, sir.
In this particular case, the allegation is that a truck and a trailer were stolen, correct?
Yes, sir.
Are there scenarios in which sometimes the items are not found altogether? Like you might find the truck somewhere, trailer somewhere else, and the content somewhere else.
I'm going to
Yes, sir.
object for speculation, Judge.
All right, that'll be overruled.
Yes, sir.
Do you know anything about the result in this particular case in terms of where the truck was found and or the trailer and or the contents?
I don't know the full details, sir, off the top of my head.
in a situation where stolen property is recovered, who makes the determination about what, if anything, to charge that person with?
It's typically gonna be handling detective on the case.
Is it a crime to be in possession of stolen property if you don't know that it's stolen?
I'm gonna object for calls for a legal conclusion.
Sustained.
Do you know the answer to that question, officer?
Can you ask again? I'm sorry.
That's all I have, Judge.
All right, state,
Nothing further from the state.
is this witness excused or subject for recall?
Excuse, Judge.
All right, the rule has been invoked. What that means is you can't discuss your testimony with anyone. You're only allowed to speak to attorneys for the state or the defense. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, thank you. State, call your next witness.
State calls Officer Todd Tackett.
All right, could you raise your right hand for me, please? Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you give will be the truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God? All right, you can have a seat. Make sure you keep your voice up so members of the jury and the court reporter can hear. If you'll state your name for the record, please.
Todd Tackett.
State.
Good afternoon, Officer Tackett. Can you tell the jury how long have you been with SAPD?
About 15 years.
15 years. And what are your duties as a SAPD officer?
I'm a patrol officer, work nights.
And how long have you? Oh, I'm sorry. Was that your duty on December 4th, 2020?
Yes, it's been the same for 15 years.
Okay, right on. When you're on duty, are you dressed like you are now? Are you in a uniform?
Yes, sir.
And do you drive a marked patrol vehicle?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so. Let's see. You remember responding to a location on the south side of town on December 4th, 2020?
Yes, sir.
And would it help you to have your report in front of you to refresh your recollection?
Yes, sir.
I approach, Judge.
Yes.
And were you wearing a body cam that night?
Yes, sir.
And is it capable of recording events as they occur?
Yes.
And was it in good working order?
Yes.
Do you recognize the disc I have? I've
Yeah.
marked it as States Exhibit 2.
That's my body cam video.
How do you recognize it?
My initials and badge number on it that I wrote.
And you watched this earlier, right?
Yes, sir.
Has it been altered besides being muted?
No.
Your Honor, I offer States Exhibit 2.
Objection.
All right, state's exhibit number 2 is admitted without objection.
May I publish, Your Honor?
Yes.
So what was the address that you responded to that night?
Be 10,500 Hunters Pond.
And why did you go out to Hunter's Pond?
We got a call for a suspicious vehicle or trailer parked in a dark area.
Okay, and what was suspicious about it?
There's no houses right there and it's just a dark strip of road. It was under construction at the time, or not even under construction. The lots were for sale at the time.
Okay. Skip ahead. So for purposes of the record, we're skipping ahead to 230452. Okay. I went a little too far here. So for purposes of the record, we're at 225537. What can you tell the jury what we're looking at?
I was checking the trailer, see if it was unlocked and see what's going on. And right here, I get to the license plate and try to verify on the vehicle is stolen or not.
Okay, and so what are you looking, you're looking for the plate and the VIN, are those two different things?
Yes, and I can't really tell in here I don't really recall exactly, but if it's a solid, like a typical license plate, it's just the license plate number. If it's the paper plate, sometimes they'll have the license plate number and the VIN number on there as well.
And what are you looking for the VIN number for?
To check in the system to see if it's stolen or get a registration to see who the registered owner would be.
Let's skip ahead. A minute here. So you're in your car and you've, this is for the purposes of the record, this is a 225727. Can you tell the jury what you're doing on the computer here?
I'm running the license plate and trying to get a registration return to see who the owner is or if it's stolen.
Can you tell the jury what you're doing with your phone now?
I don't remember this part right here. I think I'm trying to verify the actual vehicle and I got a return to see what it was and trying to verify if it's or what kind of trailer it is. If it's a proper return.
And so when you searched it on the computer, what result did you get?
That I'm not sure about. It's been a little while.
Yeah, could you just review your report?
On that return, I think I get up again in a little bit and I go check because I can find the actual return for it. So I go back and check and I get the actual VIN number for the return. And then that's when I discover that it's stolen.
Okay.
If that's what you're.
And so once you discover it's stolen, what do you do?
Then I call for a CSI or UEDI to come over and get prints, and then I try to get a hold of the owner over the phone.
And who was the UEDI that you called out for this case?
Detective Vincent Gonzalez.
I'm gonna skip ahead on your body cam a little bit here. So for purposes of the record, we're at 23:11:30, and it looks like you're trying to look in the trailer. And at this point, had you determined that it was stolen already?
Yes.
Just trying to skip ahead here to when the UEDI arrives. Okay, so can you tell the jury who this is that you're speaking with?
Detective Vince Gonzalez, who was a UEDI at the time.
Okay, and can you tell the jury what a UEDI does?
It's a uniform evidence detective. It's basically like a CSI. They'll do prints, photos, and things like that.
So for purposes of the record, we're at 23:52:36 on your body cam. And so what happens when he gets there?
He'll take photos of the trailer since it came back stolen, and then after that he'll go back and try to find prints of suspect prints or any prints he can find on the trailer.
Okay, so it looks like he's got his camera there. So did you watch him take photos?
Yes.
Did you watch him process the trailer for fingerprints?
Yes.
Looks like you're pointing things out to him. What are you doing there?
I think I was actually talking about like what I found because I believe at this point I've already contacted the owner and they've said like, yeah, everything is stolen from there. Shouldn't, that it was an actual stolen trailer. And I just kind of pointed out and said, here, like I touched over here, I did this, and just so he knows when he's taking the pictures as well.
And so you're telling him where you touched on the trailer also?
Yes.
And what's the purpose of that?
So he doesn't go and get my fingerprints and sees where I didn't touch, basically.
So you're helping to guide him, you should take fingerprints here,
Mhm.
but I touched over here, that sort of thing.
Yes.
Can you tell the jury what Detective Gonzalez has in his hand right now?
It's his the fingerprint powder and the little sticky stuff to actually put on a card for it.
And for purposes of the record, we're at 4/00/04/28 on your body cam. And so you stood by and watched while he took the fingerprints off the trailer?
Yes, sir.
And what part of the trailer is he looking at now?
I believe that's he set his stuff down on the actual hitch part, but he's actually looking at the door for the trailer to actually try to get prints off in that area. The side door.
So are there two doors on the trailer, one door?
Yeah, there's like a side door, which is like a typical vertical door, and then the big back door that flings open.
And when you say flings open on the back, that's,
Yeah, basically like a ramp.
can you tell the jury what's going on here?
That's where he's actually trying to test and get prints. So he's marking it and he's putting his little dust on there and checking to see what he has.
He's still looking for prints here at 000643.
Yes.
So you stood by and watched him while he's taking the fingerprints, right?
Yes.
And what else did you do on this case?
I from there I just stood by waiting for the owners to show up and take custody or check out the trailer and see if they can actually get the trailer. Other than that, right now I'm just standing by and making sure he didn't get hit by a car coming or anything like that. Being nosy, watching him do his work.
Did you call in the VIN and say, we found this?
Yes, I would. I think I already did it at this point.
And so describe to the jury, what is that you, when you call in?
When we call it in for the VIN, basically saying that it was stolen, that we recovered it. It's basically taking it out of the system. So anytime the plates ran, it's not going to show stolen and, that type of deal.
And so did you have an opportunity to talk to the complaining witnesses in this case?
Yes. I believe that's them right there. Yeah.
So for purposes of the record, we're at 002634. Can you tell the jury what's going on now?
They're checking out to see what was taken because I told them there was a little bit of boxes there, which not much, but there was a little bit of stuff there. If they can scavenge through it, and they basically look at it and say it's basically trash. I believe there were some metals in there, but I'm not sure on that one.
When you say metals, do you mean?
They had some kind of, I want to say it was military metals, but I'm not sure whose. It was just, they're like, yeah, this is all we got left. And I think they carried out like a little booklet.
And this is who you spoke with that night?
Yes.
And did he identified himself to you?
Yes. I don't remember his name. I think I put the wife's name on the report though.
And you spoke to her as well?
Yes.
So I've skipped ahead a little bit to 003024. What's going on here? Same thing or?
Yeah, they're just still looking. I believe they're waiting for a truck to come take the trailer. A lot of it's just us talking to waiting. getting their story of how everything went.
And is this the woman you spoke to?
Yes,
that
I
night?
believe that's what she's holding right there was the medals or something. They found something in there.
Did you put her name in your report?
Yes, Rachel Grant.
And if you work on a case like this, is there a case number assigned to the case?
Yes,
Can you tell the jury what that number is for this case?
it's going to be SAPD 2023-0259.
And what's the purpose of the number?
For what the whole case number, so you can identify the case. Usually it starts off with 20, which would be the year, so it happened in 2020, and then basically continues on there. There's numerical from all the cases that we've had throughout the year.
So is the number that's assigned to this case for you, is that the same number that the other officers will have for this case?
For this one, yes, because since it was a stolen vehicle, we just I did a supplement to the original case of when they actually took the report.
So if UEDI Gonzalez did a report, it'd be the same number?
Yes, but I believe his was say like CSSR or something like that with this for CSI stuff.
But, like, Officer Moy testified earlier, would his be the same number?
Same case number, just another supplement for it.
Thank you. I pass the witness, Your Honor.
All right, defense.
So Officer Tackett. As part of your job in this case, do you try to develop any leads out at the scene where the trailer was recovered?
At that point, no, we didn't have anything going. It was just a refused complainant, and we just basically were recovering the trailer. That's all we had at that point.
Tell the jury what you mean by refused complaint.
Somebody just called in and said, "Hey, there's a trailer parked down the street," so they didn't want to give their name, or maybe they gave their name, but they didn't want to be contacted because they don't care to be involved with it.
So you're not sure which of those applies.
I don't remember on this case particular.
So there's nothing to be, there's no reason for you guys to follow up with that person to see if they're involved. You just take their report and move on.
Yeah, at that point, no.
Do you get these phone calls, or do they come to your unit, or do they go to somebody else?
For this, well, somebody calls 911, goes to they'll dispatch it to whoever area it is, and that's my district area.
So we can't really speculate about why we don't know the complainant that called it in.
At this, I mean, I don't know if y'all have that information, but actually there's like CAD notes whenever to do that, the actual CAD calls. It actually may say on there who called, but like I said, if they may not want a phone number or may not give the address. That area right there is actually a common area for people at that time doing like drag racing type through there. So somebody would call all the time. So I get that call just about every night for something over there, suspicious vehicle, because they didn't all the time.
So just so the jury has a general idea, this is like a subdivision, correct?
Yes.
And you said you were watching cars going by. Were there houses somewhere near where this was at?
So where we were at, basically north of us and south of us, there was houses, but at that point there was no, it's like empty lots on both sides of the street.
Probably now it has houses.
Yes, now it does.
But there was nothing close enough to where there might be some camera footage to maybe identify who might have left it.
Nobody in that area right there. I mean, you could probably go a few blocks down maybe and see, but that you can't tell from right there. There's nothing showing at that area where the vehicle is parked or the trailer is parked.
Would it be, if you know, would it be part of normal procedure for somebody to go look at video cameras, like, for example, the entrance leading up to where that spot is?
Usually usually the detective, if they have reason to go by that, they can. But being that the trailer's there, all you're going to see is a vehicle pass by. So you ain't going to be able to see anything overnight like that to actually get any evidence of a person going by.
You might get the vehicle that towed it over there.
It's possible, yes.
And by looking at your body cam video and looking at when the initial report was made, it looks like it's only been like 24 hours.
I'm not sure when the actual initial report was. Yeah, my report doesn't have the initial one, but
Well, let's get the time and the date of your report, and if we can work backwards.
okay. Yeah, my report's December 4th at 23:40, which 11:30 almost at night.
And so if, for example, let's say the reported stolen time is December 4th at 3:00. What time is that?
At 0300
Yes.
at 3 in the morning.
So if it's recovered at 11:40 at night and reported roughly around 3 in the morning, it's about around 24 hours.
Yes.
So if somebody was gonna check surveillance, they wouldn't have to go back day after day after day. They just need that.
The one day, yes.
Days. I'll pass the witness, Judge.
State,
No further questions, Your Honor.
is this witness excused or subject for recall?
Excuse, Your Honor.
Excuse your honor.
All right, the rule has been invoked. What that means is you cannot discuss your testimony with anyone. Only persons you're allowed to speak to are attorneys for the state or the defense.
Yes.
All right, thank you. You may step down. Do y'all need a break? All right. All right, we're gonna take a short break. And I will have you all come back at, is 3:45 enough time for everyone? All right, so these are my instructions. You're not to start individually deliberating about this case or thinking about what you've heard so far. You're not allowed to talk about it in your mind. You're not allowed to talk about what you've heard with each other. Everything that you need to know about this case is to come from inside this courtroom and nowhere else. Does everyone understand? All right, everyone, please rise for the jurors.
Yes, please. Yes, Mr. Ron.
All right, and then with regards to your fingerprint person, if you all still want to have him fingerprinted before the day is done, then and defense, if you have any objections to him being fingerprinted, the court will hear the objections for that. Otherwise, his fingerprints are going to be taken today. All right, we're ready.
There's the only, I'm sorry, before we bring the jury in, Judge, I'm sorry. The only other thing is, but the way they get to the location is through the fingerprint. So we're gonna be able to call those witnesses out of order? You don't understand? Yeah.
Sorry, I can't let them talk about evidence as if it's already
No,
committed. when it's
here's
not
the thing,
admitted.
they're not allowing you to call witnesses out of order.
I'm gonna make them follow. the
So
rules.
there we go. So I know what people said in the beginning, that witnesses will be called out of order, but that's not happening.
But what you should
So,
have asked me is, are you gonna
who's-
stipulate to the evidence? I would have said no.
Who's,
Clearly, it's a
so-
no.
witnesses are not being called out of order. So who do you have to call?
I think this witness, right?
Yes, and then after that, Judge, we would need some time,
Okay,
because our understanding was out of order.
okay. All right, bring the jurors in.
All rise for the jury.
All right, everyone, please be seated. State, call your next witness. All
State calls Edith Serrano.
right, could you raise your right hand for me, please? Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you give will be the truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God? All right, you can lower your hand. Make sure you keep your voice up so members of the jury can hear and the court reporter can hear. If you'll state your name for the record.
Edith Serrano.
All right, you may proceed.
And Edith, if you can speak into the microphone just to make sure that we can hear you. So, Edith, how do you know Jose Lozano?
He was my partner,
And how long have you known Jose Lozano for?
like middle school.
And again, can you speak up just because
Oh,
it's difficult?
like around middle school.
And at any time were you dating?
Yes.
How long did you date Jose?
Almost 15 years.
At any time were you married?
No.
Did you ever hold yourself out as his wife?
No.
So, how many children do you guys have to share?
3.
What are their ages?
I'm sorry,
What are their ages?
18, 16, and 14.
Now, I want to take you back to December of 2020. Were you and Jose living together?
Yes.
Where were you living at?
Greenwood Road.
Would that be 13641 Greenwood Road?
Yes.
What city is that in?
Atascosa.
And how long had you and Jose lived there for?
Like 3 years, I believe, 2 or 3 years.
And at that time, in December of 2020, was there ever an occasion where a lot of property showed up at your home?
Like what this case is about, yes.
And so what showed up?
Boxes,
And what was inside the boxes?
clothing, other items.
And did you ever question Jose as to how they came to be there?
He purchased them, or I was told he purchased them.
Did he tell you who he purchased them from?
No.
How about where?
No,
How long had the items, well, we scratch that beginning. Did the police ever go to that home?
yes,
Okay, and from the time that the items arrived at the location to the time that the police arrived, how long was that?
I don't remember an exact time frame.
Was it a day?
No, like maybe I think I had told you like a week or two.
And so you have spoken to me, is that correct?
Mhm,
And when did you speak with me?
earlier.
And what was one thing that I asked you to say when testifying?
Nothing.
Huh?
Nothing, like just speak the truth.
So this property was there for a little bit before the police arrived.
Yes,
And what had you guys done with the property?
we looked through it.
And what was in that property?
Mm, like the clothing, the Monroe stuff. I don't know, just like toys. Kids liked toys.
Was it a little bit of property or was it a lot?
It was a lot.
Was there some property that was in your home?
Yes,
Was there also property that was outside the home?
yes.
And why was some of the property inside the home and why was some of it outside?
Because he purchased the stuff and we were looking through some of the stuff that we liked and we took it inside.
But you left some of the property outside.
Right,
And was it just all around the yard?
in the backyard.
Was it neat and tidy? Was it thrown around? Describe it to me.
It should have been neat and tidy, like it was, like we didn't mess with it much.
And were you noticing any names that were appearing on any of
No.
this property? Can you answer the question?
I said no.
And did you notice any type of medals or plaques that,
I did some.
and here, ma'am, just let me finish the question. for you,
Okay.
No, it's all good.
Mhm.
Did you ever notice that there were any plaques or awards with anyone's name?
There was plaques, but I didn't pay attention to the names.
And was this something that was common at your home for Jose to buy a large amount of property and bring it?
No,
So this was the first time he had done that.
yes,
And speaking of that home, who was paying the bills at that home?
we both were.
Were they both in your names?
No, only the electricity was under my name.
And whose name was it under for everything else?
It was just both our names. It was a verbal rental. There wasn't a contract,
And
or a lease, I should say.
let's describe the homes. How would you describe your home and I guess the area?
Okay, so it was a property with 3 homes.
And was there any area that was shared between these 3 homes?
Like the backyard was an open area. And like, but yes, we had like our own areas. The kids played around on all the areas.
So your kids would go from just one area of the backyard, the communal backyard, to another area.
Right. Mhm.
And you put property outside of the home, right?
That I put property outside of the home?
Or property was placed outside of the home?
Yes, property was placed.
But was there any delineating line or like a line between your area and a neighbor's area?
Not really. Like it was just like, I guess we just kind of said, like kept it to like, oh, your home is there, kind of
Excuse
divided.
me, I'm gonna need you to speak up so that the jurors can hear and so that the court reporter can hear.
Okay, sorry.
So can you repeat what you
Okay,
said?
so it wasn't like an actual line that's divided, but it's like, I guess, like whatever is behind your house is your backyard, but like I said, we were all just there, like my kids were the only kids in the property, so they just roamed around.
So pretty much if you were someone from the public and you visited that area, you pretty much could walk around kind of the entire area.
From the public, like, what do you mean?
Like if I were to go to that home and kind of just see, the entire area is kind of open.
I mean, if you live there, yes, we know who lives there, but if somebody from the open area, no.
So let's say I'm visiting and I'm just trying to speak to someone, you could pretty much go from the front to the back. Pretty easy.
Not really, like, I mean, if you go, you have to pass behind the houses to get to the backyard, but we wouldn't have people just come and go to the backyard.
Was there a gate stopping anyone from going to the backyard?
Like on our side, there was a dividing line, like where it shows that the backyard was there. Like a gate.
And so the police ended up coming to your home.
Mhm.
And how long were they there for?
I want to say a good maybe, well, I get out of work at 5. And I'm sure they were there for a while already. They didn't tell me how long they were there for. But they didn't leave until, like, it was really dark already, so I could say like 10, 11.
Did they ever show you that they had a warrant?
They showed me the warrant later in the evening, yes.
And once they showed that to you, did you start to indicate just what
Yeah, right
property?
here.
Yes. All right, you may continue.
Now, did you ever direct the police as to what items were already there or were yours versus what items were brought by Jose?
From the items that were brought from the outside, yes, I did direct them.
And did they take those items from the home?
Yes,
And again, these were a substantial amount of items. Would you agree with me on that?
right.
And did you and Jose ever talk about what happened? Did you ever talk about it after this point?
No,
And did you stop living together with him shortly after that?
we stopped living together a few months after that.
And were you upset that this had happened?
I was more upset that my kids were questioned while I wasn't there.
Did Jose ever tell you what he was planning to do with any of these items?
No,
So what about the items that were inside the home?
well, there were items that we liked, so we were keeping them.
And then what about the items outside?
I don't know what he was gonna do with them.
But they were sitting outside where they were exposed to the elements. Would you agree?
Yeah,
And so if it had rained, it would have destroyed the items or damaged them.
yeah, if it rained, yeah.
And do you see Jose Lozano here in court?
Did I see him here in court? No.
Do you see him right now?
Yeah, it's right there.
And can you identify him by an article of clothing that he's wearing?
Okay, the baby blue shirt.
Let the record
Right.
reflect that the witness has identified the defendant. What's Jose's full name?
Jose Manuel Lozano,
And do you know what's his mother's maiden name?
Alarcon.
And again, at the time, Jose was living there at that address.
He was.
What is the address again?
It's the Greenwood Road address. 13641.
Pass the witness.
Defense.
Ms. Serrano, describe for the jury more or less where this is located?
It's in Atascosa, the city of Atascosa, borderlining Atascosa County,
What's in the country?
the country or US.
No, I mean, I'm sorry. It's not in the city, San
N-
Antonio.
No,
Within the county lines, but not the city limits.
right.
So would you say that, describe like the general area, is it like a subdivision or is it big lots with houses?
It's there's a lot of big properties around.
Your neighbors are not necessarily right next to you.
Okay, in the case of my neighbors that were next to us, we lived on one property. But like the closest neighbors were like, let's say, maybe 5 houses away, which would be in San Antonio, or like it's separated in acreage.
So when you say on your property, you mean on the lot where your
The
house
lot,
was?
that's right,
There's 3 houses.
that's right.
And how big is that lot? Roughly.
Maybe an acre or 2.
So there's, each person has a relatively large space.
Mhm.
You have to say yes or no.
Yes, sorry.
And so when council was asking you about the yard, if you went to your house, could you determine just by looking what would be the backyard to your property?
Yes,
And were there some fence lines, even though there may have not been fence lines at every single spot?
so on our side, it was divided by a tree. To, I guess that divided us from the other property. And on the side of the house, there was a fence, like half, like a partial fence on each side, but it wasn't completely covered.
If you recall, were there some spots where there was a fence that was maybe had fallen or was not standing?
That one on the side,
But you knew that was the fence line because that's where the fence was.
right?
So I want to clear up your answer to the question. Would you just permit anybody just to go behind your house?
No,
Did you? Was it your belief that the area behind your house was solely your property?
right, yes.
And so when you said the kids would roam around, what did you mean then?
Well, because they would see like rabbits in the back and they would go look for them. The neighbors had like rabbits that they were their pets, I guess, and they would go over there and they would feed them carrots or whatnot. So like it was just like a mutual type thing where the kids were just let roam whenever they.
So when you said you were more upset about your kids being questioned, who questioned your kids?
I don't remember the sheriff's name. But my daughter said that they knocked on the door once and my oldest son told them that his parents weren't there. And then that they banged again and they were like, "Where's your mom? We need your mom." And they showed them a picture of their dad. "Is this your dad? Oh, look, we saw him doing this." And they showed them a picture of a slim man like next to like a dark vehicle, and their dad isn't slim. So my daughter was like, "No, like that's not my dad. Like that's my dad. The first picture you showed me is my dad, but not that second one."
Is this the same date that you talked about them being there all the way until late evening hours?
That's right, yes.
Now, you said that your understanding was that Jose had bought all those items.
Right,
Did you have any reason to doubt when he said that?
no,
At the time, would he have had money to buy something of that kind of value if somebody offered it to him?
yes,
Would he keep money like in cash money in the house?
yes.
Had you known him to buy and sell things on other occasions other than this one?
Like to buy himself things?
No, like, let's say somebody had some tires to sell and he thought he could resell them or something like that. Had you known him to do that before?
Yes,
What was he doing for work at the time?
the mechanic work,
Say again?
mechanic,
Okay. Now, you said there were some items in the collection that you had an interest in and maybe you wouldn't resell. Is that what I understood?
yes. Well, I mean, I wouldn't sell them, like,
Why would you leave things outside exposed, or was it because you didn't think they had really high value?
We had a very small home. We couldn't fit the stuff inside if we wanted to.
Now, did you ever see any vehicles parked on your property within that 2-week period that didn't belong to you or to Jose?
And no, sir.
Any cargo trailers?
No,
Anything, any other type of motor vehicle or trailer that didn't belong or titled in your name?
no.
Now, you said that the two of you separated sometime after that. Was that as a result of this situation or something else?
It's something completely different.
It had nothing to do with the fact that Jose got arrested.
No.
Press the witness change.
State.
Now, in your backyard, were there any vehicle parts or vehicle items that were there?
Not that I remember, no.
So if there were parts to a truck or other vehicle that were just out in the backyard, that would surprise you?
The only vehicle that was back there was his father's truck. Like, that's the only vehicle that I remember seeing back there.
That's a witness.
What did that truck look like?
It was a red Ford Ranger.
And if somebody comes to knock on your front door or approaches your front of your house, can they see that red truck?
Yes. Yeah,
So behind the house or in front of the house?
it was in the back part of the house.
So how would they see it if they're at the front door?
If they looked back there, kind of.
In other words, they'd have to go around the house, correct?
Yeah, a little bit, like, because it was red and it was, there was a lot of like trees in that area as well. You can kind of see it, but you have to like kind of look back there to see it.
So let's say, for example, you wanted to look inside of the truck. How far was it from the front of the house?
Like from here to the clock.
I'll pass the witness change.
State.
Nothing from the state.
All right, is this witness excused or subject for recall?
Subject to recall, Judge.
That's fine.
All right, the rule has been invoked. You're not allowed to discuss your testimony with anything or watch anything regarding this trial. Do you understand? Make sure that you're available if either the state or the defense wishes to recall you.
Okay.
All right, you may step down.
Thank you.
And Judge, may we approach?
Yes.
Just walk out. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to release you all early today so you can enjoy the river walk. But we're going to start back tomorrow at 1:30. Again, the same rules apply with regards to the parking. At 1:30, if you're probably here by 12:30, you should have a place to park. Remember my instructions. You're not to start thinking internally about this case or deliberating internally or with each other. Everything that you need to know about this case is to come from inside the courtroom, nowhere else. If somebody talks to you about this case or wants to talk to you about this case, or if you see something about this case, you're to completely ignore it. Does everyone understand?
Yes, ma'am.
You're not allowed to do any research. All right? All right, yes?
Are we gonna come early the rest of the? days, or we don't
Friday.
know? I'm sorry?
Friday, most likely, but
Okay.
I'll be able to let you know tomorrow. I'll let you know what time on Friday, and I'll let you know when you come in, what time on Friday, okay?
Okay,
All right,
Thank you.
everyone, please rise for the jurors. All right, everyone, please be seated. Yes, please. Thank you. No. All right, so defense, you're objecting or asking that the search warrant be suppressed?
Yes, Judge, if you look at just the four corners of the document, officers clearly state that they go to within private areas of the property, which is the backyard. And that's when they start looking around. They actually look around and they look inside the truck that's back there. And then they take that information that they gained through their trespassing and go to the magistrate and ask for a warrant. It shocks me that they would admit to intruding upon somebody's private space in that manner, in a sworn document, at the same time asking a court to issue a warrant. Whether the backyard has a fence on it or doesn't have a fence on it, it's still their backyard. And he doesn't deny that. Their suggestion is, our justification is, well, we were gonna knock on the front door, so we want to make sure nobody came out the back door. Well, they didn't have a warrant for anybody. They weren't looking for anybody to arrest. They were just gathering information. This wasn't, armed people holding somebody hostage in the house and they were worried they're gonna run out with guns to the back door. It was a totally false impression to the court. But I don't even think it's that, because when you read it, it's clearly, we're just doing a knock and talk. And that somehow that justifies them going to the back door. And even if it did, does that mean you get to go poke your head and look inside the contents of vehicles that are in the property? So, and I agree that the state's probably gonna argue that there's other justifications that they have to suggest why they know there's contraband on the property. But if they admit to and tell the court that they're asking for the warrant, information that admits to illegal searching and illegal trespassing, that should nullify the whole thing, because we don't know what portions of the affidavit the court relied on in granting it. And if there's portions on there that's admitting to wrongdoing in being in the place that they're at, the warrant should not stand. It's if we analogize it to a plain view situation, the case law in plain view is very clear. You can't put yourself in a position where you're not supposed to be and then claim it's plain view when I see it, therefore the search is legit. And that's exactly what happened here. They put themselves in a place that they were not allowed to go to, which is their private backyard, and then snooped around and used that information to obtain the warrant.
All right, and was a motion submitted in this? A motion to suppress or no?
There was,
But I can't remember.
I don't think we did, Judge, but I still.
And Judge,
I think we get to
I
object.
believe that they did.
All right, I just need to see the motion. That's why I'm asking.
I don't remember.
Give me just a moment and I'll look it up.
And then I'll hear argument from the state.
Yes,
When
Your
you're
Honor.
ready.
So,
I got it.
oh, you got it, Frank? Okay.
Yeah.
So the backyard wasn't enclosed in this case, Judge. We're arguing that this was an open field search. There's bags, evidence of this crime out there in plain view. The name of the victim in this case is on one of the bags. Once they see that name, they say, hold up, wait, we gotta go get a warrant, Judge. And they go get a warrant from the detached magistrate. And there's this preference in this line of cases that reviewing courts should give deference to the magistrate. The reviewing courts are not supposed to play Monday morning quarterback and say, well, the officer or the magistrate at the time should have done A, B, and C. They're just, the reviewing court's role in this case is just to review to see if there was enough for the PC at the time, and there was in this case, Judge. And even if that initial search, there was something wrong with it, I think once the neutral and detached magistrate signs off on the warrant, reviews the affidavit and signs off on the warrant, that negates the search. And there's the part from Illinois v. Gates where the trial court can excise the information from the warrant that was wrongfully obtained and examine the warrant to see if the affidavit nevertheless establishes PC. And so even if you take out the part of the warrant that may have been obtained unlawfully, I think the rest of the warrant that the rest of the information in the affidavit that the officer saw is still enough for probable cause to allow the search. And so I do have just a few cases, Judge. I have sorry, if I can just pull these up. I have Brown v. State, Brackens v. State, and State v. Le. So in Brown v. State, the court said that if the tainted information is contained in the emphasized sentence in the affidavit, if that sentence is eliminated, the rest of the affidavit is clearly sufficient to justify the issue of the warrant to search for the boots. And so, Your Honor, the court has said in other cases that if you excise the part of the affidavit that that contains information that is legally obtained, but there's still probable cause, then the warrant's okay. And that's what we're saying here, Judge. And Brackens v. State, that's a similar deal. If there's something in the affidavit that it was unlawfully obtained, some information that was unlawfully obtained, but the affidavit still contains sufficient probable cause without that unlawfully obtained information, then the affidavit is still sufficient to grant probable cause. And so, Judge, we would ask that you find that there is sufficient probable cause in the affidavit and not suppress the warrant and the search, Your Honor.
All right, defense, it's your motion. I'll give you final argument.
Judge, the only thing that I would ask the court to reconsider is that, and I know the court knows this, but I still have to make the record to make the arguments. And that is, we're solely relying on what's in the document. When counsel says, well, it's an open field and they could go back there, you can't consider those things. You can't consider suggestions of evidence of things that the magistrate could have relied on, and it's not in the four corners of the piece of paper. So I'd ask the court, if you focus just on that and you take out, I agree with him, you take out the parts that was illegally obtained, it becomes very, very slim, and I think probable cause is lost. He specifically says in the affidavit, he sees the items that he thinks are what they're looking for. Well, of course, a magistrate is going to sign a warrant in that situation, but I don't know why the magistrate at that time didn't ask, well, what were you doing in the backyard, looking inside of their vehicles and looking through their backyard? Because that might have given a reason to pause about whether or not to sign that or not.
All right. All right, I've heard both parties' arguments. I will give you all my ruling tomorrow at 10, so be back here at 10.
I'm printing out these cases that I referenced, Judge. Do you care if I give them to her? I can email them.
Okay,
Yeah, if you email them to me,
all right.
I need citations.
All right, so I'll see y'all back tomorrow at 10.
Thank you, Judge.
Do you want the prints done today? Judge?
Oh, the jury's coming back at 1:30. And if y'all could go ahead and do your fingerprints.
We might have sent that person away.
Yeah, Judge, we'll have them here on Friday. That's when we told them.
All right, so those, all right, I want everyone to understand something. The jury was here and then they waited for an hour. So with that fingerprint person on Friday, they need to be here and they need to be ready to go. And it appears that on Friday, we're all going to be here at 8.